This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, welcome back everyone. So this is the fourth segment of our Capstone project discussion. Uh, so before even we start today's discussion, I want you to be sure of, I want to be sure that you really are making notes of every point that you are getting as requirements in this particular Capstone project. It's very important because this is what you would be doing as your regular day-to-day work when you get into a business analyst role. Okay, so for example, now okay, so this question is um, uh, creation of account. Okay, so should creation of account be done, or should it not be done, and rather we need to depend on the existing credentials itself. Now you might have discussed this with the stakeholders and you might have got a response, but unless and until you put it on paper, I mean, not on paper, but until you put it on in written format and get due confirmation from the stakeholders, you should not be considering this as a you know well aligned requirement as such. Okay, because down the line, maybe after having this initial discussion with the stakeholders, maybe 1 or 2 weeks down the line, if you go back to them, they might say, no, no, you know what, Ranjit, in fact we also want account creation to be part of this particular process, because there's a RBI regulation that forces us to create accounts for the customers, even the online account. Now what would you do? You don't have anything to back up that what was discussed earlier was different. Okay, so to be clear and to be aligned and to be on the same page and to avoid such sort of miss communication at a later point of time, at the end of every workshop, what you do, if you remember, again we are connecting to what we had covered in the concepts. If you remember, in the concepts we discussed about what should be done before, during, and after the workshop. So after the workshop, I had mentioned that you must make notes right after the workshop gets over, put down all the points that were discussed, and then share it across to stakeholders so that they can provide their confirmation this is the exact list of points that were discussed. Or if something got missed out or something got misunderstood, these things could get sorted out then and there itself. Okay, so I hope you're doing that. Now let's get into the actual app discussion. So I hope we all are again aligned that we're talking about a mobile app, which is going to be a standalone app. Okay, when I say standalone, I mean this is not going to be part of the existing banking app, which will give all the other services. This app's only purpose is to allow the customer to express their interest that I want to withdraw this much amount, and then receive a particular, you call it as a passcode or a 4-digit pin or whatever it is. You receive it, and then the customer can go to the ATM store, enter that pin, and get the money. That is the only purpose of this app. We discussed that it could be on Android or it could be on iOS, and we discussed that it is going to be only on smartphones for now, not on tabs or website and all. And we also saw that it is going to be the initial, the very first login that you do, you need to do with your existing credentials. So for that, we are going to stick to the internet banking credentials. We discussed it earlier. The next point. So as we were discussing in the last few minutes of the previous segment, we don't really, when we use any app, we don't always enter the entire username, entire password, right? So what do we do? One thing is, maybe you can be kept logged in all the time. Like once I log in into Amazon app, the next time I don't have to log in again. I'm already logged in, I'm already signed in, my account is already active. I have to just go to and do the selection of the particular product item, and then uh, check out and get the product delivered. I don't have to log in every time. But can you do that for a banking app? Is that even a secure option? You're talking about banking app. Might be it is just for withdrawing money, but of course, if your smartphone is in someone else's hand, and if they enter, open this app, and immediately they can just get a code and they can go and they can withdraw money. So that is not a safe option. So the next question that you can ask is, you can say that, can we allow the customer account to be logged in even after closing the app. Similar to, you know, as I was discussing, like, you can say Uber or what is the other discussion I was talking about? Amazon, right? Yeah, Amazon, etc. You can ask this question, and you can, if they say that, yeah, what is wrong and all, what is wrong in it and all, you can point out the security issue, and then you'll get a response that, okay, we understand your viewpoint, so we should not allow customer to be logged in. So what is the next thing? So every time the customer logs in, even your banking apps, you don't remain logged in, right? Every time you open, you need to enter the code. So that is where the previous question comes up. The question which was mentioned in the last minute of the previous segment. So I was talking about the alternate login options. Okay, when we talk about alternate login options again, what about the normal login options that you see nowadays in most of the apps? Login through Google, login through Facebook, login through Twitter, which is called X nowadays, or anything else like that. Is that a viable option? Is that something which you can really look into? Think of it. You are talking about a banking app, and you want to integrate this with your Google account or your Facebook account. Is that a safer option? No. In fact, even if you suggest this particular point, the stakeholders might even really get pissed off, because this is not a safe option. This is a completely strict no-no. But if you want to get a confirmation, you can say that, I think this is a strict no-no, but I have already thought of this point that, login through Google or login through Facebook, this option cannot be provided. Okay, so that can be ruled out. Then what is the next option? So what do you do when you have to log in? The most basic point that comes is login through PIN, 4 digit or 6 digit or whatever it is. This is how you log in even to your normal banking apps, right? So that is one option which can be considered. Okay, fine. You give the customer to enter by login. So if this option has to be provided, what is the thing that is required? You need to ask the customer to set up a 4 digit PIN or a 6 digit PIN, right? So that will have its own small flow of screens. What happens, once the customer has logged in initially using the internet banking credentials, then you'll display another screen saying set up your alternate login method, and below that you'll have login through PIN. If the customer clicks on that option, then you take the customer to the next screen and you ask the customer to select a 4 digit PIN. Okay, the customer selects a 4 digit PIN, then you ask the customer to re-enter the 4 digit PIN in the next screen. Customer re-enters the same PIN, and once this is done, you will say, congrats, you have set up your 4 digit PIN. Now you can log out and log in using your 4 digit PIN. Simple, straightforward, happy path is what we discussed till now. Now here again, if you look into the nitty-gritties, that is where your work as a BA stands, right? So it's not like, okay, the stakeholder has agreed that, okay, 4 digit PIN is a suitable login method that we can provide to the customer, and that closes the matter. It doesn't, because you need to discuss further. What is it? When you talk about your login through 4 digit PIN. First of all, 4 digit or 6 digit, that is your first question. Maybe they'll say, let's keep it simple. So let's have it as a 4 digit PIN itself. Okay. Next question could be, like, any specific conditions to be followed for setting up this 4 digit PIN. What do I mean by that? See, we are talking about a banking app. So we need to talk about secure options. So do you allow customer to enter something like 1111 as a 4 digit PIN? Is that allowed? Or something like 1234, do you allow that? Or even the reverse, 4321, do you allow something like this? We need to get into the details of this amount, because what happens is, when you discuss details to this extent, then you can frame these requirements, document it properly, and only then the developers will be able to develop the solution properly. Or else what happens if you ignore all of these things? Then you'll say just 48 pin you generate. The stakeholders say okay, you go to developers, then they will ask you these questions. Okay, Ranjit, tell me, is there any terms and conditions that needs to be followed by the customer to set up this pin? And that's where again you need to go back to stakeholders, get it resolved. It's a little time consuming, so why not analyze the questions and ask beforehand? So maybe you'll ask this question: is it possible to allow the customer to enter like this? Then there could be a question: no, no, we should not allow customer to select the same digit multiple times. When he says same digit multiple times is not allowed, it means something like 1122 is also not allowed. Okay. Then sequential order, is it allowed? Not allowed. All these questions you need to ask and get the response, and you should document it. Next thing, okay, so customer has selected, uh, login through pin, was asked to select 4-digit pin. He entered 1111 and he was told, please do not repeat the digit while selecting the pin. So he selected something like, 4832, something like that. Okay. Now 4832 is not, again, reverse chronological also, right? It's a little different. So might be he's allowed. What is the next thing that happens? Re-enter the pin. So here the customer has to enter the same pin again. So here what happens if you can ask the question like, what should we do? What should the app do if the customer enters a wrong pin second time? Of course, you should ask the customer to re-enter. Now, how many attempts should we give? You need to talk about that also. So maybe at first time the customer has entered, enter pin means the customer has entered something like 9735. Okay, and then in the next screen the customer has entered 9734. Okay, so you'll say no, not matching, enter again. Then the customer enters 9733, by mistake entered the same rate twice, not allowed. Then he enters 973 9755 by mistake and switch to 5 instead of 3. Now 3 times the customer has entered wrong. Do you allow another option? Okay, you enter some digits again, you have another option. Do you keep on giving like that, all the time? No, there should be a break somewhere, right? So you'll get to know when you discuss this with the stakeholders. The stakeholder may say no, 3 attempts. If the customer has deliberately entered or by mistake entered wrong pin in re-enter, okay, in this next screen if he enters, then we'll take the customer back to the enter pin, ask the customer to re-enter the pin here, and then select the right pin here. Okay, so that is something which you'll ask. It might look a little tedious to go through this process, but trust me, when you bring this level of clarity, it impresses the stakeholders, it makes work easy for the developers, it makes things easy for the QA, and the entire application that is going to be designed will be as foolproof, as efficient as possible. Okay, and you will be able to really feel happy that okay, you have been able to create a solution like this which is really working so well. Or else what happens is you lead to a situation where things can get compromised, and you're talking about banking solution which has to be really very uh, highly secure and protective about the information and all those things. So you should not let any loopholes in it. Anyways, turning back, so you get to know that in re-enter the pin, maximum allowed attempts are 3, and then if the customer enters wrong values here, then you send the customer back to enter pin. Customer enters and then comes back here. Okay, selection of pin is done. What next? You'll display the customer, after confirmation of the pin. What happens? Ask the customer to log out and log in with the new login method. So what happens? Customer logs out and clicks on the app again, and then will be asked to enter the code, and customer enters the code. Fair enough. Okay. Now the point is this okay? Is this okay in the sense we got to discuss about one particular method? Is it okay to provide only one method, or are there any other methods which can be used? Think of it. You're talking about banking app. What if customer has not opened the app for a long time and forgotten the 4-digit pin because this customer is using multiple apps, multiple passwords, and might get confused and is not able to use? Will you block the customer from using this app? No, right? You need to still give an option to log in. So now think about it. What is the next option that you can do? Already you have ruled out these options. This is not allowed, right? And what else can be done? How about login through Face ID? Can we provide that option? That is still a secure option, right? Login through Face ID. Nothing but customer has to hold the phone in front of the face, and then the Face ID is captured, and then that allows to log in from next time onwards just using the face. Is it a secure option? Of course, it is a secure option. Uh, what else can be done in this? But okay, again, the point is, if you ask this question to stakeholders, login through Face ID, should we accept this as a login method or not? Stakeholders says, yeah, very good. There's no chance of customer forgetting it and all, so we can use it as a secure option. Let's go with it. Will you stop at that, or is there any further question that you have to ask about the login through Face ID? Think of it. Okay, so think of it, spend some time, come up with your list of questions that you can have to ask about this, and also think about if there is any other option of login method that you can implement. Okay, and we will try to cover that in the next segment. And as I said, that now it is the time for you to sit and analyze and put your questions, get the details, sort it out, document it, and in fact, I'll also talk about wireframe in the next segment. So this is the time when you have to do all of these things. Okay, so we'll stop this video here. We'll continue the next one. Thanks, everyone.